Hello and welcome. This is Enda here. This is the weekend video from bowwaves.org. We're going to go through the markets and from an Elliott wave perspective, and we'll see what's happened this week and how that fits into the larger picture. I'm going to maybe take a kind of a wider angle view today, but in general, it's the same concept. So yeah, let's get started. An interesting week all round, I think, and some interesting developments. This is euro dollar. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the alternate account here. That's this triangle wave B. I've been identifying triangles in the long-term counts on the three FX markets. Two of them in play in cable and in dollar yen. Euro dollar I just haven't switched yet. That may change. I'm not entirely sure. We'll just have to see. So far, the main wave count is still holding on, and it's still got predictive value. So there's no point in throwing it out. Throwing the baby out with the bath water just yet. But if we do kind of morph into this long-term triangle pattern, and that will push out any decline, any major decline, let's say back below parity in euro dollar. Probably, if this is a wave B low of a triangle, this way back here in 2018, that'll be the wave A of the triangle, and then a long drift lower in wave B of the triangle, and then a move higher in wave C of the triangle, and then you'd have D and E. So I would say that you're probably talking at the very least the end of the year before this triangle, possible triangle wave B in alternate account would conclude, and then you would look lower again into wave C. But for the moment, still got my eyes on this wave 1, 2 pattern with a further decline in wave 1 and 2, and a possible acceleration lower into wave 3 still on the cards. Even if we are to even if you favor, let's say, the triangle point of view, so this long-term oscillation around a trend, let's say the 112 kind of oscillation point, you would still expect, I think at this moment in time, you'd still expect a decline, probably back down to that lower trend line there. So where does that come in? Probably back around to the 106, 107 area, simply because we've hit a serious overbought and declining MACD, so both momentum indicators are pointing down for the moment. So I would suspect that we would get a retest of the low there again, so about 107 somewhere, even if the alternate account is correct. Okay, so let's get into the 4-hour. The 4-hour count doesn't really show us anything extra apart from the fact that we have a nice, I think, impulsive move to the downside. And so far, anyway, 3 waves up. We hit the upper trend channel line. We tagged our targets, and we've come off that level again. The action off that high, well, for the moment, it's actually going quite well. We'll get into the short-term action here on the hourly count. I think it could be a wave 1 expanded flat wave 2, and now another further wave 1 down. So here we are. This is maybe a wedge wave 1, all depending on how you read this correction in here right off the high. It kind of doesn't matter really, I think. It's a nice impulsive move. We have an A, B, C pattern wave 2. Not expanded flats, forgive me, running flat. We didn't make a new high in wave C above 113.52, so we've declined impulsively off that again. Now, I don't know whether this wave 1 down here is complete yet. It's possible that it is, but you could also view this as wave 1, 2, extension lower, wave 3, some sort of 3-wave pattern, wave 4, and maybe we'll make another new low to complete wave 1 of wave 3. Okay, next week, I think the downside is still favorable, depending on how, well, it kind of doesn't matter really how we view the action off the recent high. I think it's impulsive. Whether we get a larger correction in wave 2 and then we move lower is to be decided. But I think in general for next week I'm looking lower again into a third wave down. All right, pound dollar daily. Here's the daily count in pound dollar. It looks like we have wave C complete and we're moving lower in wave D. I had initially thought that wave C might come up to that upper trend channel line again, or upper trend line, but not to be the case at this point in time. So we're trundling along in this long-term, drawn-out contraction triangle. Wave 4, or it could be a wave B, depending on how you view it. I'm sticking with wave 4, and then we'll move lower in wave 5 again. And wave 5 eventually should bring us down below parity also, or close to it. We'll see. We will see. And again, that'll probably be mid-2021 before that happens. But for the moment, we're just going to the next 6 months or so, we're probably just going to continue sideways. Okay, 4 hour. Here's that triangle again, and a closer kind of view. The wave C top in place. We have 3 waves down to begin wave D, and I think we're kind of moving. I think we should complete a larger 3 wave up before we collapse into wave C of D, and I'll show you on the hourly count how that's supposed to play out. This is what I'm working with right now. We could say that the wave B top is in, but yeah, I'm not entirely convinced yet. I don't think this is particularly tradable either, this market right now, simply because it's just, you can see the, okay, you get a nice move leg lower, but then you get this massive retracement quite quickly. And, corrections and triangles in general are just so hard to pinpoint. Well, I find them hard. Maybe someone else is fantastic at them, but I find them quite hard to pin down, and you almost don't know that you almost don't know that you're in a triangle until the end of the damn thing. So there you are. I still think we should see a larger 3-wave pattern in wave B, but if we don't, we're heading lower down into that 121 level again in wave C of D anyway. So yeah, wave D should probably come. Well, we're gonna hit some pretty reasonable support around 121.50, and then lower again at 120.60. So somewhere within that trend channel there, in that kind of target zone, wave D should complete, and then we should head higher in wave E. And wave E itself should complete below 128. So for next week, wave B should complete, and we should head lower into wave C. Okay, so dollar yen. Here's another triangle. If you didn't want to see another one, tough luck. Here it is. Why am I getting that coming through there? Who knows? Yes. Let's get out of there. Okay, dollar yen, 4 hour. Here is the triangle on the 4 hour count. Wave D could be in place, and maybe 3 waves down in wave E now underway. This is proving difficult, as again I'll reiterate, these long-term triangles are, inherently complex, and they don't want to reveal themselves. The action kind of, the short-term action just goes against you so quick. I had thought that the wave E of B had been complete at that 105.99 level, and then we were heading higher to begin a larger 3 wave C, but it wasn't to be. We were kind of drifting lower, sideways and lower again to complete wave C of E of B. Let's get into the hourly chart. We'll show you here what I'm looking at in wave E. So this would be wave E down here. This whole 3-wave move for now is labeled wave C of E, and so this would be I suppose technically you'd call it a WXY kind of correction, but I don't bother using those terms. It's a C wave, and it's wave C of C to the downside is what I'm waiting for. We seem to have an expanded flat or running flat. Maybe we're complete at today's high. If it's an expanded flat, we would probably call this low, this early low here today as wave 4 of C, and then we should head higher into wave 5 of C. So we will see how that wave C goes. I expected wave C to pop up to that previous wave A high, so that was 107.63. That's kind of what I've been looking at for the last couple of days. We fell off that overnight, but so far that's only 3 waves, and we've recovered again this morning. So I'm kind of swinging towards wave 5 of C now completing, and maybe we'll get a high of that this evening. And then next week we should head lower into wave final move lower in a 3-wave decline to complete wave C and wave E. Okay, well, the target right now kind of stands at about 104.30, 104.50 again. Minimum target would be about 106. So, yeah, I'd expect more than that, though. If wave C was to equal wave A, we would probably expect somewhere around 104 to materialize. And then we'd work, that would, with a bit of luck, that would create a long-term base, and we could work higher in wave C. Okay, this is the stock market. This is the thesis that I've been working with for some while now, that we are simply concluding a B wave, and we should be heading lower into a C wave. Now, it's hard to know which degree this B wave is because it was so large, or so, yeah, so it retraced so deeply into the initial move lower. I do tend to kind of maybe veer towards the idea that we're actually operating at one higher degree here. So actually that was the alternate count, so let's get that in there. Even so, if it's the alternate count, but it still has the same eventual outcome, and that would be a decline in wave C. And if we are actually moving at a higher degree, then wave C down should take us far lower. Then the initial target would be about 17,000 again, so I'll retest of that wave A low before we bounce in a larger wave B. But if the alternate count is actually correct, then we should head lower continuously for an extended period of time, you know, next couple of years, probably 2, maybe 3 years lower, and the eventual support is somewhere down around the range of the previous recession. So down around between 13 and 6.5. So that's where we bottomed in 2009. So that's where you would expect another bottom to form. But anywhere within that price range is probably beginning to turn bullish. Now, I know that there are larger kind of bullish counts that can be, let's say, that are valid. I don't favor them at the moment, but that doesn't mean, just because I don't favor it doesn't mean it ain't right. So I have one eye on those too. But for the moment, I'm tracing this 3 waves up, and right now we've got an impulse wave with either a completing wave 2 or already completed. We'll get into the 4-hour chart here. This initial move down does look to be in 5 waves, so it depends on how we read this over the next week or so. This should be able to reveal what's out ahead of us. I think we're heading towards a larger decline, and I think it'll probably scare the pants off people. Okay, so here's the hourly count. We have, I think, 5 waves down. You could view this low as wave 1, and then we have an expanded flat wave 2. I haven't chosen to do that right now. I know the action off that high has been muted so far. I mean, we have had a few significant legs lower, but nothing to match the previous decline, and nothing to retrace fully the advance into wave 2. So At the moment, I'm running with the possible 1-2 pattern in place. It could be a leading wedge in wave 1 and then ABC wave 2. This week's decline again does look impulsive, so it's maybe a wave 1 and 2 already complete. Today's action later on, well, the futures are kind of trending lower. We're just opened, I think, actually in the US, and we're kind of pushing lower. So it depends on how this today's trade does go. If we accelerate lower, I was saying last night, if we accelerate lower back below 25,000 again, then that will favor the idea that wave 3 of 3 is underway. So I'm looking for a larger wave 1, and that'll be wave 1 of 3. So that needs to happen pretty soon. Early signs are reasonable this morning, so let's see how today's trade goes. But for next week, depending on whether wave 2, well, even if wave 2 is complete or yet to complete, let's say at let's say a larger 3-wave pattern in wave 2 completes early next week, then we should, by the middle of end of next week, we should be accelerating into a third wave down. Again, I do have this alternate larger wave 2 scenario, because we've had an extended decline this week. It does open up the possibility that we have a larger rally in wave C still ahead of us, because it allows space for that to actually happen now. Earlier on this week, that simply wasn't, well, it was on my mind, but we didn't have the room to accommodate it, basically. So now that we've made a lower low and a further kind of lower, higher low, let's say above, God, that makes sense in my mind, but if I actually play that back to myself, I'll probably think I'm such an idiot for saying a lower, higher low. But you know what I mean. You can see the picture here. 3 waves up. The gap that has opened up above us here now does allow for that to happen. So it's still a possibility, but hopefully not a probability. Hopefully we can head lower into a third wave. All right, let's move on, and we'll jump into the metals and commodities. So 4-hour count in gold, I'm still looking for that kind of 5th wave advance and acceleration. So I still think that's out ahead of us. We've had further kind of consolidation today. Well, overnight it was a consolidation. So I think we still have a kind of a corrective pattern off the recent high. So that does open up the possibility of a larger wave 1 and 2, or a 4th wave. We're selling this morning, so maybe this is an A triangle wave B and C down in wave 4. So kind of a complex combination wave in wave 4. I would like to see a kind of rally into the close this evening, so that this kind of corrective move to complete and a rally into the close this evening. I was looking at wave 1 here at 1745 as pretty significant support here for any 4th wave correction. Now, on top of that, let's just pile on the bullish count completely here, shall we? This could also be wave 1 and 2 of 3, so there is that. And I have been looking at the 3-wave form of this rally throughout the week also. So until we get a clear and complete kind of challenge of that 1800 level again, and a nice, let's say, a nice rally above it, then it does still leave open the alternate counts there. Okay, still for next week, even if we are to kind of to switch to this, and let's say initial lower degree alternate count here in wave 1 and 2, that would still expect a rally in wave 3 of 3 to arrive next week. So let's keep our eyes out for that one. The other alternate count that I mentioned there earlier was for this large degree wave 4 in green here. So we could also call this an A wave decline, 3 waves up in B. And especially if we get a break of 1700 again, that would open up that larger fourth wave correction. I hope it doesn't go there, but who knows? We can't tell the future, so we just, until we rule out those possibilities still exist. Okay, crude oil. Here's the 4-hour count in crude oil. Now, I'm still looking at tracking this fourth wave and possibility of a beginning or burgeoning fifth wave down. I had thought that this previous decline was it. It didn't turn out to be it. But we have now filled a gap that you can see here back in the March trade. So when was that? I think it was the 8th of March or something. 6th of March. 6th or 7th of March. So we had this large gap lower. So that gap was filled in the fourth wave, and I would expect that to offer some significant resistance. We are already, you can see here on the 4-hour momentum, we have diverged significantly from the price for a significant period of time. We've traced out 1, 2, 3, now 3 lower highs in MACD and RSI, and we're trending lower again. So it is only a matter of time before this momentum does change into a price decline. So this declining momentum will change into a price decline eventually. Odds are that that price decline has already begun. So let's get into the hourly chart and we'll see where we stand right now. I think we've got 5 waves down. I think this fourth wave is in here at this internal high here, but can't fit it in there. So it'll sit idly in there in that gap for the moment. I'm watching an A, B, C, a larger 3-wave kind of flat correction at the moment. We pushed higher yesterday into that 50% retracement of wave 1, and now we're selling off again. I think it could be a B wave decline and then a rally in wave C, possibly Monday, Tuesday next week, to complete a 1-2 pattern. And once we do complete that bearish impulse wave, then we'd expect a further decline in wave 3. So next week, let's watch this second wave. Let's see how it completes, and we'll see wave 3 down should begin. Okay, let's get into the S&P and then silver, and then goodbye, go home. S&P 4-hour count. Again, looking at that second wave high, and let's say the developing pattern within a third wave down, hopefully. Like I continuously say, I can't tell the future, but we can definitely tell what people are thinking in the present here with their actions. Okay, let's see, there's 4-hour count. 3-wave rally up in wave B complete. We've got 5 waves down off that. We've completed a lower high and a series of lower highs now. This action of late is a little bit of a muddle. A little bit. It's a serious muddle, really, to be honest. But since I expect a third wave decline eventually, I am still concentrating on that as the most likely outcome for the moment. Let's get into the hourly count here. Because again, initially I'd kind of ruled out, because the S&P had rallied so heavily, so hard into that initial what is it, early June, that 15th of June high. I didn't expect a larger wave 2 to be a possibility, seen as if this was wave A, if this was only wave A of 2 to the upside, and then we were tracing on some sort of B wave right now, for wave C to match wave B, or sorry, for wave C to match wave A, then we would be challenging the high again. So I didn't like that. For the moment, I'm sticking with the probability that we are moving lower into a third wave. This second wave here, we do seem to have 3 waves up, and we're declining off that again. But we could trace out a larger second wave here, so some sort of flat maybe. It could be 3, 3, 5 flat, and then we head lower next week into third of the third. Say in the longer term, when do I expect the next serious lows to be in place? Well, if wave C is to kind of match the ferocity of the decline in wave A, then you would expect it to be at least as long in duration of wave A, but maybe even longer, because C waves tend to kind of elongate and they tend to extend in form. So I'm looking at, if we were to take from this point, or from these, from today's trade, if we were to extend the time it took for wave A to complete, so if we were to extend that out, that would give us kind of a low for wave C somewhere around the end of July. That would be a little bit too soon, I think, for my liking. I think we should probably see this decline head towards the end of the summer, so late August as well is most likely, before we see any low forming in wave C. That does depend on this third wave down beginning. So let's get into the hourly count here. If wave 2 is complete and we are in fact cycling lower into a third wave, then this third of a third should come about either today or early next week. So that's what I'll be looking out for, depending on where wave 2 completes. The early trade this morning is, well, it's pretty light so far, slightly down. We'll see how today's trade develops over the next few hours, and I'll be back in touch with you, obviously, in a few hours' time for the close of business. Okay, let's get into silver. The stock market in general is looking lower, and that's where I'm looking again. Okay, silver is, despite a bit of a wobble earlier on this week, I think we're still looking up for the moment. We have, let's get into the hourly chart. That alternate count exists for silver also, and we have early selling. I still think we have a possibility of a wave 1 and 2 complete, and a lower degree wave 1 and 2 to begin wave 3. Now, we're not out of the woods on this one yet. The short-term pattern hasn't cleared up. We do have this alternate possibility of a larger wave 2 pattern. I don't want to see that, obviously, but if that's the way that this goes, there's no way that I can't combat it. Tentatively, I'm still looking up. Today's trade is slightly lower, and I'm thinking on the spot here right now. So it could be a fact that we have a larger second wave correction now underway. So let's get that line in here. So maybe we have an ABC wave 2. That would mean that we would challenge 1736 again before heading higher. I can't rule out that we're already into wave 1 right now, but I do want to see a break of those highs. I want to see we have 3 significant highs here in this previous corrective phase. So we have 18 up to 1820, and then up to 1837, a band of resistance there. I want to see that broken before we can dive, let's say, headlong into a third of a third wave up, or a third of a first of a third wave up. Early trade today is not, let's say, playing by the book. So we'll have to see a turnaround and a break of resistance by the end of today before, or to, let's say, confirm the idea that wave 1 is underway. But again, longer term, I still think there's a lot of headway above us. There's a lot of room above us to rally, and in general, that's where I'm pointing. The short-term count it's complex. There's no doubt about that. But in time, this will clear up, and I think we're closer to the way out of this mess than we are, beginning any major decline. So let's see how the next few hours trade holds out. Maybe we might have something cleared up by this evening, by the time I update you guys this evening. Now I have a 3-year-old shouting my name at the bottom of the stairs, so I think it's time I should go before I get raided. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks all the website subscribers. I'll see you guys again tonight. And if you are interested, head over to the membership options page on the website and check out the membership levels. And I will see you for next week's video. Either way, have a great weekend. God bless you all. Here in Ireland, we are on the verge of easing restrictions again, so we will now be allowed to travel all over the country. Ain't that great? So at least I'll be able to travel around and see how everybody else is weathering this depression. Okay, have a great weekend. God bless. See you on Monday. And for website subscribers, I'll see you later on. Bye.